What's up, wall fans, common sensors, and of course, podcast consumers? Welcome to the video feed for yet another Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and this is episode 109. That's right, video feed, episode 109. We got all kinds of great stuff to get into today. I guess temper your expectations. I think they're great things. You should too. But with all that being said, let's get right into episode 109.
Who, 1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers. Welcome to another very exciting edition of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and this is episode 109. 109 on this fine Sunday in June. Man, the GoPro's doing weird things. I'm going to take a second here and see if I can get this working correctly. I don't know what's happening. I think my GoPro might be just kind of giving up on life. Doesn't want to function anymore. So you might hear some beeping in the background. I'm going to see if I can get it working here. GoPros, come on, man. I mean, the thing is almost 7 years old, so as you know, with technology, things change and they stop working, and I swear most companies do it on purpose, but maybe we won't have a lot of still images for this particular episode. We'll see how it goes. I can't imagine that memory card's getting full. It didn't say it's getting full. Anyway, now that we've gotten tangented in the first 1 minute of episode 109, we got a lot of great stuff to get to, but of course we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us before episodes, after episodes, during episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's our official Facebook page. Make sure you like the page and check back often for updates. And of course, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall or at Go Tell It to the Wall. That's our official YouTube channel. If you're a YouTube user, make sure you subscribe and check out all the great videos we have on there. Not only our video feeds, but other clips and album reviews and show reviews, all kinds of great stuff. So make sure that you're subscribed and checking back when new videos are posted. And of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean, right there on Instagram. All kinds of great photo content that gets posted up there, especially if you are a fan of our show reviews, our album reviews, and all that kind of good stuff, or even Bases Against Racists. For those of you not on the video feed, I happen to be wearing one of my Bases Against Racists shirts today. I own like 8 of them, and this is the last one that hadn't been on an episode yet, so finally getting all of them on an episode, and it happens to be the Intruder Purple shirt, which is near and dear to me, not just because of purple hair, but for multiple reasons. All right, and don't forget our website, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's going to give you links to all those social platforms I just mentioned, as well as exclusive content that doesn't get posted in other locations. And of course, you're going to find links to our Patreon campaign. If you want to help us out, check out Patreon. Even if you don't want to help us out, check out some other great broadcasters, musicians, artists, all kinds of stuff that are on Patreon. And if you don't want to have anything to do with Patreon, you can also support us financially by picking up some Common Sense merch right there. Links directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. You'll see a nice little tab at the top. It says merch. That obviously is going to take you to, it's a different website, but it's going to take you to the merch website. It is integrated with our website, but it's set up differently, so it'll take you to a new link, but it is all good. You're going to find some great Common Sense merch on there on our merch website. All right, it is officially summer. Between last episode and this episode, we had our official first day of summer. A lot of people consider Memorial Day like the unofficial beginning of summer, but now we are in it. We had summer solstice, and sure enough, like I've been saying for a few weeks, everyone, June gloom, and why is it so cloudy? Well, the heat is here. We're getting into the 80s. We've been hitting 80, low 80s, and we're supposed to be hitting even more of it over the next week or so here in Southern California. So hopefully, depending where you are in the world, I know the UK was getting some crazy heat already. Hopefully, you're staying cool. And if you do enjoy the sun sign, now I felt like I got astrological for some stuff I don't even understand. Some sunshine, that you're getting sunshine, but hopefully not too much heat in your own forecasts there. But it is hot here. I'm telling you. I have the air conditioner has been kicking on over the past week or so, and we are in the thick of it. All right, let's talk some digital trends, things happening over the past week or so across the digital platforms that I found interesting or common sense related or just plain silly. Most of this is going to be common sense related. I'll just preface before we get into the meat of our digital trends here. So, good old Elon Muskrat over there at Twitter put out another statement. Now, to be fair, I think you can find dumb statements from him on a daily basis, but it's always ridiculous when he clearly doesn't realize he's putting his own foot in his mouth. And made an announcement the other day on Twitter that there is a new hate speech word that can no longer that will have zero tolerance for on Twitter, and you could have your account suspended for using it. That particular, and finger quotes for those of you not watching the video feed, hate speech are the terms cis, CIS, as well as cisgender. We've all heard these terms. They're often used nowadays because we have, as much as we've regressed in certain ways, we have progressed in many ways in learning to use proper pronouns and all those things relating to LGBTQ plus community. The interesting thing here is that these aren't actually hate words. And I'm not an expert, so I don't know that they are necessarily specific scientific terms. However, it's not a hate term. It is simply a term that is used for a person who still identifies at the same sex they were assigned at birth. So I can sit here myself and say, without hating on myself, I am a cisgender male. It's not a hateful term. It's simply a way to disseminate the differences among genders and the fluidity that we now know it should have been brought to attention many years ago, and finally is, even though lots of hateful people like to complain about it. It's simply a term for certain people. There's nothing hateful about it. But because we have such sensitive people, and this is the best thing too, is all the same people that are complaining about cisgender, it's like, so you're agreeing that pronouns do matter, and you're somehow offended by an adjective that simply describes you as a person? I really don't understand it. We're also talking about the same Elon Musk who turns a blind eye to real hate speech and often perpetuates much of it on his own platform. It's just more and more of the death knell that is coming to Twitter, which really a lot of us believe is already there. I don't dare engage with anybody on Twitter anymore. It's simply not worth it, unless it's something silly or it's somebody I know. And I'm sure as hell not posting anything on Twitter. That's just not something I'm interested in doing because it really is a hellscape. Now, you can still find some interesting news on there. In fact, the reason I knew that Elon Musk did this is somebody screenshotted, because I block him, somebody screenshotted his tweet and tweeted that out themselves, and I said, oh my gosh. And then, of course, that starts trending on Twitter because everyone's going, what? This is what we're cracking down on, despite everything else that's happening on your platform, whether it be real offensive terms, real hate speech, conspiracy theories, anti-vax, all kinds of stuff. But yes, let's crack down on the use of a term that has at its core is not offensive in any way possible. Good old Elon there. Speaking of Elon, this was also trending over the past week or so. Apparently, Elon Musk decided to challenge Mark Zuckerberg to a cage match. I'm assuming mixed martial arts, or maybe one of those old 80s wrestling, professional wrestling. I don't know. But of course, here we have just such toxic masculinity from Elon Musk. And then, of course, Zuckerberg responds and says, you just let me know when. And it's like, good Lord. Now, I would definitely pay a little bit of money to see one of them get the hell beat out of them. And I'm not condoning any kind of violence. You shouldn't run up to either one of them in the street. But if they're getting in a ring and signing a waiver, and maybe that might be a little entertaining, despite the fact that I can't imagine either of them are super athletic. Although, who am I to judge? I don't know them personally. Elon definitely doesn't look like he's athletic. Maybe Zuckerberg's hiding, some serious MMA training. Who knows? But grown men acting like boys in public. It's amazing to me that people look up to these billionaires and they're arguing on a dying social platform, talking about how they want to fight each other. That is boy energy is what that is. Or what do they say? Little dick energy, I guess you could say. But this is things that boys do in school, and not even like high school, like elementary school status. Or we're going to go fight. Like, that's what you sound like. And part of it is definitely like the, you know, you say, let me at him, and someone's holding them back, and they're like, hold me back, you know, that's really what's going on here. And of course, people are eating it up. And then you have that Cobra Andrew Taint or whatever the hell his name is, and he's, I will train you, Elon, and their whole love fest continues while he's in fucking jail. So I guess he's going to train him from jail. That makes a lot of sense. Although, I mean, we do a lot of stuff over video these days, so maybe. But I feel like fight training should maybe happen in person. I'm not a fight expert. I took karate for a couple weeks in the 80s after Karate Kid came out, and that was the extent of my martial arts training, let alone a mixed martial arts cage match or anything like that. And more along the lines of toxic masculinity, it's amazing to me, and I know it's partly the algorithm feeding it up, but suddenly we are seeing so much more of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And of course, the reason lately is not so much his conspiracy theories, which can basically be talked about any day of the week and should be trending because it's utterly ridiculous. No, this is actually all about a shirtless Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Who is working out in what appears to be and I don't know because I didn't go deep enough to really give a shit, but it looks like he might be working out at Muscle Beach there in Venice Beach. You know, even if you don't live in Southern California, you've seen photos taken at Muscle Beach. There's a lot of famous photos of like Arnold Schwarzenegger working out at Muscle Beach. You walk by there and you could just smell the testosterone coming off of that place. And no, and not to be insulting to anyone's working out there. It's a bunch of serious weightlifters out there. So he's out there. Whether it's that or another place that's outdoors, wearing jeans and no shirt. I've never understood this. If it's like, and I see this about people, like they'll wear a beanie and t-shirt and shorts, and it's like, so the entirety of your body is hot except for your head. And so it's like, so your legs are cold, you got to wear jeans, but your torso's hot, so you got to wear no shirt. I always wonder about stuff like that. Nonetheless, guys are losing their minds. They're just defending Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's going to be a nasty presidential primary, among other things, simply because we have all these morons just coming out of the woodwork, and it's on both sides of the aisle. And for those of you not aware, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Plans to challenge Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination for president, despite the fact that he's really not. Maybe in name because his name's Kennedy, but the guy's not a fucking Democrat. I don't care how you look at it. The guy's not a Democrat. He is a Republican in Democrat clothing, if you could even call it that. But he's not wearing clothing. He's working out shirtless. And the other funny thing is he is anti-vax, but if you look at him, he's clearly pro-HGH. Now, I'm sure you could naturally get a body like that somehow, but you look at the man and it's like, no, that you're using a little something to get your body looking like that. He's got some muscles going on. And the way you can also tell, and it's so funny because guys are like, look at how much weight he's lifting and stuff. And I looked at it, and I couldn't quite tell, but somebody had said he's lifting 115 pounds, bench pressing. And for those of you not familiar with a bench press, that's the typical one you see where you got a long bar and you're laying down and you're pushing the bar up and down with weights on the side of it. 115 pounds is not a lot. I have never done much weightlifting in my life. I was always more of an endurance athlete. Do a little bit of it to help burn fat and gain a little bit of strength, but 115 pounds, I haven't touched a weight in a year or so. I could go into my backyard and do that right now, and he did like 6 reps, and he was already tired. Like I could literally do 6 reps of that weight right now without having touched weights for like at least a year. So everyone calm down with this toxic masculinity. It's like, oh my, and that was one of my favorites. Oh, have we ever had a presidential nominee that looked like this? And it's like, who cares? Like, why the fuck do we care? I mean, to be fair, we definitely have had some of the least fit presidents recently. I guess I could speak of one particular who happens to be orange and clearly not the same as his stats have been put out, because it's like, that guy's much fatter than me. You're not telling me he weighs like slightly more than me. That's just not possible. So yeah, more of this RFK craziness, not even lifting heavy weights. I'm telling you, political landscape is just, it's the wild, wild west right now. In fact, we're going to move on to the next thing. We have a congresswoman from New Mexico. She's a House rep from New Mexico. I don't even know her name. That's not important to the story, but she had a tweet go viral over the past week. And you always see this. You see, oh, thanks, Biden, and people are talking about how expensive something is. And apparently she posted not the entire receipt. I actually saw the image, but it was like a Costco receipt with the total, which was just under $800. And she said, I just spent $800 at Costco. Thanks, Biden, for how expensive all this stuff is. On the receipt, you could also see that for just under $800, she got 58 items. And there was a couple of back and forth where she was like, I didn't buy any alcohol whatsoever. We only bought a couple of, it was all food except for like some paper towels and stuff. Well, it took me all of 2 seconds and I'll be honest, I didn't do it in my head, but I busted out the calculator on my phone and I just did a quick 800 divided by 58 is just under $13. For those of you not familiar with Costco, maybe you don't have it in your country, I don't know if we have Costco internationally. It's very common in the U.S. It is a bulk wholesale store. So when you're talking 13, and we even round up to 13. It was just under round up to $13. And we rounded up to 800, which wasn't quite. $13 per item. Now, we're not talking about a $13 single loaf of bread. Everything is in bulk. If you're buying bread there, you're getting like 4 loaves of bread. And in fact, there was one reply on it. She said, the only meat we bought was chicken thighs. And it's like, yeah, but that's, if you're getting a bulk pack of chicken thighs for $13, that is not expensive by any means. Have you ever bought paper towels at a wholesale store or toilet paper? You need a fucking forklift to get it out of there. It's a very large pack of paper. So the fact that people jumped on this and were like, oh, yeah, so that's crazy expensive. $13 for bulk items. You don't go in there and buy an apple. You buy an apple tree. That's what happens at Costco. And it's amazing that these things go viral and how dumb people can be to be like, yeah, Biden's raising prices, everything else. Not to mention the fact that she has the privilege of being able to go spend $800 in one shopping trip, something that majority of Americans can't afford to do. So get off your high horse, do some simple fucking math, and realize that that was not expensive by any means. Oh, and of course, we got more viral photos of Nazis. I feel like this is a weekly occurrence. This one wasn't outside of Disney World this time around, but there was some photos from Georgia. People standing on the side of the road in Georgia just flying Nazi flags, probably protesting something ridiculous that they should find better use of their time for. But nonetheless, flying Nazi flags. And I know we've talked about it before, and I'm going to talk about it again. And if it comes up every week, I'm going to talk about it every goddamn episode. When I was growing up, you would never see that. Can you imagine the 80s? People walking around flying Nazi flags? Yeah, they existed. But we made movies like American History X to show how ridiculous it was and how there was no future for things like that. Now it's just commonplace. And on top of that, we all know where Nazism came from. The Nazi Party, and why there's the red flag and the symbols and everything else, was Germany. Do you know that you can get arrested in Germany? It's against the law to fly a Nazi flag, the place where the Nazi Party came from. Yet here in America, the United States of America, people are running around flying these fucking flags on a weekly basis. There's utterly no excuse for it, and we need to do better. I see this every time, and it's not that I'm shocked the way I was a few years ago when you really started seeing these protesters and everything else and Proud Boys and stuff like that, but I'm still, every time, it's like, how do we still live in a country where people think this is okay? This is settled. We're done. You cannot fly Nazi flags, and there's no reason for it. But yet, and it's usually white men in America, they're out there doing it. And right now, just so we're not just focusing on toxic masculinity and stupid white men in this country, let's move on to some stupid women in this country. MTG, Marge, and Bobo. I'm here for it. I say get some popcorn ready. There was a viral video that popped up over the past week, like really midweek. Apparently, they started arguing on the House floor, and you can't really hear it, but I guess people have done the whole lip reading thing and said, but you could see them getting into it. You know, they're just standing there in the aisle between where you sit on the House floor there, and obviously arguing. And apparently, Marge called Bobo a fucking bitch, I believe, and I quote, fucking bitch. You can fact check me on that for exactly what it was. But they're basically, what's happening here is we have two people competing to see who is the dumbest person in Congress. And not that I want to defend either one of them, But I think right now we got to just go ahead and give that title to Marge, because moving on to the next thing that has been trending does involve Marge. And this one was just recently. She claims that she is being spied on by the federal government. And this all stems from, apparently was sitting in her, and I believe this was in D.C. They, Congress people and Senate, they have homes in the state that they're from, and then they usually have like an apartment right there in Washington, D.C., like down the street from the Capitol. So I believe she was in D.C. Her TV turned on by itself, and she claims that a computer was trying to connect to her television. And apparently, like I said, this can only mean spies. There's no other logical explanation for it. However, anyone else in the entire world that has ever dealt with technology knows that with how things are built these days, sometimes a TV will just turn on. It gets a signal from something. Sometimes I will pull out my phone, and I don't even have the super fancy smart TV, but sometimes my phone will then think, the TV will think my phone is trying to turn it on. And on top of that, you could have a neighbor who's accidentally connecting to the wrong thing and turns your TV on, and that would explain the computer connecting to it. This happens. Calm down. It's not the federal government spying on you. It's not anyone out to get you. It's just that you are fucking ridiculously dumb. And we let these people make decisions for the American people while they sit in Congress. Amazing to me. Really is. It's funny, but it's not. For God's sake, people keep electing these people. What are we doing? All right, that's going to do it for Digital Trends. Told you, we didn't have any fun stuff this week. It was just some ranting, although, like I said, have the popcorn ready. I want somebody to sneak a if you've ever watched boxing, like a boxing bell into Congress. And just when they start going at it, ding, 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 round one. That would be fantastic. All right, let's talk a little bit about mental health. I don't have a ton of stuff this week, but I do want to talk about something that has really stemmed from what I was just talking about. We got very ranty there with Digital Trends, and it's this. I want to talk about more the toxicity on social media because it can be very rampant. Everything from sexism to blatant hate, racism, violence. All kinds of madness happens on social media. And I've also talked about in the past how you can curate your social media when it comes to, so for example, me personally, and I'm not saying everybody needs to be like this. I go on Facebook and it's bands that I listen to. It's bands that I work with. It's photographers that I follow and collaborate with. It is people in marketing even. It is family. It is friends. I don't have random people that, now granted with with Go Tell It to the Wall's Facebook page, that seeps in sometimes. But when it comes to my own feed, I'm looking at friends and family and stuff, people I have things in common with. And I've been accused of, well, that's an echo chamber. It's like, no. You don't have to listen to the asshole standing on a soapbox on the corner claiming the world is going to end. There's no reason to get, let's get his take on things and make sure I'm not in a echo chamber here. No. It's fucking insanity. Just like trying to debate RFK Jr. on the Joe Rogan show. Give me a break. So it does seep through. And again, I'm not saying everyone needs to do this, but my Facebook tends to be a lot less toxic. Same with my Instagram. However, you go to Twitter, and now with that algorithm, you're still getting all the ridiculousness. It's just the nature of the beast. And it's tough to scroll through most of the time. And then what brings me to my next point is it's extra crazy for survivors. We have people, and I'm using survivors as a much broader term, people who have dealt with death because of anti-vax stances and stuff like that, especially when it comes to COVID. Really, I'm using this much broader than the term survivor should be, but follow me here where I'm going with it. And to scroll through and see those kinds of things, to see RFK Jr. being defended like crazy when maybe you lost a parent to COVID, even if they weren't anti-vax themselves, and you just sit there and you see the kind of vitriol that is spewed by these people. Joe Rogan and all his bullshit, everything that comes out of his podcast. And what I was just talking about with like MTG, Nazis, all these kinds of things. Can you Holocaust survivors? There are still living Holocaust survivors. Can you imagine having lived through the Holocaust and now you're seeing photos and videos of people flying Nazi flags in the United States of America, where you had to possibly fled to during World War II? Things like this are just utterly disgusting. And I bring it up from a mental health standpoint because just think about those. Think about Andrew Tate. Think about rape survivors. Think about people who have dealt with racism. Once again, there are plenty. Segregation and those kinds of things, depending on your age, you might have been alive for it. At the very least, your parents were alive for it. Or if you're very, very young, your grandparents were alive for it. We're not talking that this was that distant in history. It's not. You think about it as a kid, and I think this happens because for me as a kid, it was kind of like, oh, that feels like hundreds of years ago. And then you get older and you're like, holy shit, there's a Holocaust survivor that I'm talking to. There's somebody who dealt with segregation that I'm talking to. There's somebody whose parent or grandparent, at the very least, was enslaved in the United States of America. So when it comes to social media, you see a lot of that. And there's no way to stop it. We're never going to stop it. And there's the saying that, this racists always existed, now they have a platform. Well, you're not going to stop it, but what you can do is step away from it. Step away from it at times. Try not to let it get to you. And it can be tough. Trust me, I scroll through Twitter, and as much as I don't like to engage, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, fuck you. And I have to stop myself. I'm not going to get anything out of engaging with this random person on a shit social platform that really doesn't benefit anybody except for me getting some news out of it. And they think anybody getting anything positive, that's what you're getting. And maybe a wholesome story here and there. So 2 things to remember before we move on from mental health. 3. Like I said, you take that break. Take a mental health break. Doom scrolling, not the best thing to do on a constant basis. I know you can get sucked in. You can get sucked into arguments. I see this happen all the time on social platforms. In fact, I talked last week about how people were arguing about Juneteenth and everything else, and why can't. Step away from it. Put the phone down. And remember, we've talked about this many, many times over the almost 7 years of Go Tell It to the Wall. Twitter, and really all social media, is a small fraction of the population of not only your respective country, but the entire world. It is a very, 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 very small fraction of that. And that's why whenever everyone freaks out, oh, what are we going to do without Twitter? And it's like, talk to other people, meet your neighbors instead of some random hateful dude sitting behind a computer screen, And the thing is, hateful people are always the loudest. That's the thing. There's an old saying, because I grew up working retail. My family had a small business, and there's a saying, and really it goes for anything, but a happy customer, and this can go for, like I said, anything, not just retail. A happy customer is going to tell 10 people about their experience. An unhappy customer is going to tell 100 people about their experience. And that kind of goes for social media. It's a lot of negativity, and they are the loudest. It's the same thing when it comes to religion. There's plenty of religious people out there that are not hateful. However, it is the hateful, bigoted ones that tend to be the loudest and give everyone else within a given religion a bad name. And that's really unfortunate. So keep those things in mind. Take care of your own mental health when it comes to social platforms. And know that despite seeing all of the things that you can possibly see opening up just a stupid app like Twitter, that is not indicative of the entire population of the country or even the world. All right, let's talk about some positive news here. I really enjoy this one. Really. And this one just popped up today. So there's a big, and I'm not sure what track meet it is. I wish I had, because I love watching track. I grew up, I was a high school track athlete, track and cross country. I love watching track live or on television. There's a European meet that's going on right now. I'm not sure which specific one it is. And the Belgium team had 2 100-meter hurdle athletes that both got injured shortly before the race and couldn't compete in the race. And here's the thing is, Belgium had to put an athlete into this race, otherwise they would be disqualified from the entire meet. And there's some relegation there, I believe. This must be some European track circuit that they do. So they had someone on the Belgium team step up, and apologies to this very talented athlete. I'm going to butcher the name. Jolien Boomquo. Jolien is right, but Boomquo from Belgium. She is actually a champion shot putter and hammer thrower. For those of you not familiar with track, shot put is the ball that's really heavy, and you throw that thing, and the hammer is the thing you swing around and you throw it. And I'm sure she threw some discus too, but apparently those are her biggest events. To save the team from disqualification, she volunteered to run the 100-meter hurdles. Now, she is not a runner. If you've ever seen the 100-meter hurdles, you have to jump over a thing. And when it comes to runners, they tend to not have a ton of upper body strength, whereas a thrower, shot putter like this is going to have upper body strength. So you're built for two different things. And it's a great clip. I encourage you to watch it because she's just all smiles. She started the race, and clearly everyone is well-trained in hurdles. And trust me, hurdles, not easy to do. I did it a couple times, and I was like, Coach, I think I'm done doing the hurdles, man. I'm gonna kill myself doing this. I'm gonna topple over. And I have very, very long legs, and I was a middle distance runner. Like, I was kind of built for it, and still I was like, no. So she had the courage to go out there. She does it, and she does it very slow, but she cleared every hurdle, didn't knock a single one down, just took her time and was all smiles at the end, and kept her team from being disqualified from this track meet. So good on you, Jolianne. It's just inspiring to see this and to have no shame. You know, she's like, I know I'm going to be in last place, but I simply have to finish I don't even know if she had to finish. She probably just had to start the race. I believe if she'd been DQ'd for, missing a hurdle or whatever it might have been, I think they wouldn't be DQ'd from the overall meet. And I could relate a little bit because I've been there on the opposite end. Like I said, in high school, I was a middle distance runner, and we were at an invitational. And this was at Balboa Stadium down there in San Diego. We're at it's a Saturday invitational. So it's teams, but a lot of individual stuff. And we needed a few points. My high school team needed to finish an event with a few points, and you had to have 4 people in the throwing events. And we were one short of someone to throw the discus. And there was not a lot of people who still had eligibility because you could only compete in 4 events for the entire meet. And I think I had run probably the 400, the 200, and maybe either 1,600 or 800. But I did have an event left. So my coach comes to me, and he's like, Sean, I'm going to need you to go over to the throwing area, and you're going to throw the discus. And I went, I've never done that before. I don't even know how to do it. And he goes, it doesn't matter. We're going to get points from the event. We had a really good throwing team. We were just down one person. And I was like, but I literally don't know how to spin and stuff. He says, just go up there and throw it like a Frisbee. And if you've never held a discus, it's not light like a Frisbee. You're not throwing that thing, passing it back and forth. You chuck it. You spin around and you chuck it. Well, I went up there in my not throwing shoes, just my training running shoes, of course not my spikes that you wear on a track, and I basically Frisbee tossed the thing. And it got us, I don't think we won. I want to say we probably took like second place in that particular invitational. But just doing that, and that's all about putting team first. And I had no shame. I was like, this thing's going 5 feet, guys. Flip. All right, good. All good. Like literally one of those moments. So good on her, and I find that to be very positive to have no shame and put your team first like that. All right, parenting. Oh, man. I feel like I'm talking a mile a minute, but we're not getting through as quickly. Sometimes I'm just in a fog. It's been a long week. I think I mentioned before, I've added extra gigs to my workload here, so I've been just nonstop busy, and then the wife has had events. She was out at the Indigo Girls last night. And I'm not laughing because she's at the Indigo Girls. She really likes Indigo Girls. I'm laughing because I ended up, not only just me and my kid, but I'll get to all the other craziness. But before I get there, I want to mention we're actually celebrating Father's Day again today. I know I mentioned it Monday. We took that I took the Sunday off in order to celebrate and go to the Sparks game, which was incredibly fun. But because my wife was gone all weekend, she decided today was going to kind of be a little bit of Father's Day celebrating. So I was able to sleep in this morning. My wife and daughter made some muffins, so I had a mini muffin for breakfast, and then they left to go run some errands and stuff. And I think they're heading to the park now in order to give me time to record all this. And then we're gonna go out for a nice little dinner, because I did enjoy the Sparks game. And in fact, that's what's funny is they left, and the Sparks game was on national TV, so I'm sitting there doing show prep in front of my TV, and I'm watching Sparks win. And like I said, I've become quite the Sparks fan. But I'm going to have a nice dinner tonight, enjoy it with my family, maybe hook up with a couple of other family friends that have kids, and enjoy it even more. And I got a weed whacker for Father's Day. That was my Father's Day present. You're getting old when you're most excited about a weed whacker. And trust me, I am. I own a weed whacker, but it's corded. And I've been wanting a cordless one because I have a really nice battery-operated blower. Leaf blower, but I only have one battery for it. And so I was like, you know what, I want a weed whacker. And I told my wife that, and she went and ordered it for me. Got a second battery. It's the interchangeable batteries and stuff, and I can't wait because, like I said, I think I've mentioned it before, the weed clearing has been nuts, and that was a lot of my week this week. was the weed clearing, which I'll mention a little bit more as we move along in parenting. But as I said, I want to talk about the struggles of kids making a mess. Now, I often talk about my obsessive compulsive disorder. I am very organized. In fact, it's a joke and sometimes a frustration in my house because obviously my daughter is 6. She is not very organized. And admittedly, when I was 6, I was not very organized. That kicked in kind of as I got a little older, around like 10, 11. But even my wife, and it's not that my wife is messy, like dirty. It's just, my wife doesn't care. In fact, there was a viral comic that came out a few years ago, and it's like the husband who goes, your boots are still sitting in front of the door, right? And the wife's like, yeah. And he's like, it doesn't even bother you, does it? She's like, no. And he's like, how long would those boots be there if I wasn't to say, like, can we put the boots away? And she goes, they would never move. And that's my wife. Like, it's not that she's messy. She just doesn't care if there's like a pair of shoes sitting in the middle of the floor. Whereas I'm like, why don't we just put this stuff away? So it can be a challenge when you have kids. And yesterday, two neighbor kids over for literally like an all-day play date. We're outside playing. They're watching a movie later in the day. They're having lunch together. They're a dance party, dress up, jumping in the little pool. I filled up the tiny pool that we have because I'm in the process of getting the bigger pool up. And it's going to happen no matter what. And that's why I bring this up from a parenting standpoint. And it's finding that balance. So I let them just have fun. But then toward the end of the day, I said, you know what? Let's clean up some of this. And it wasn't like, get the broom and the dustpan. And it was like, see this pile of books right here? Why don't we stack these books? See this pile of Barbies? Let's move that to the side so that I don't trip and kill myself walking through the kid's bedroom. Stuff like that. And it is finding that balance. And I have to turn it off quite a bit. And my wife is good about reminding me. She's like, just let it. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But it is tough. I mean, it's tough for anybody, let alone if you're kind of a neat freak like I am. I just prefer to be completely organized when it comes to a lot of things. In fact, people will come. If my wife is using the studio, it looks very, very different than when I'm using the studio. Let me just leave it at that. So parents out there, try not to get too frustrated and find that balance, between the two. My kid has been really into using her camera lately, and we have one of these kids' cameras. And recently I was thinking, like, maybe it's time to get a little nicer point-and-shoot one. She's got this clearly a kid one, and these point-and-shoots are so inexpensive nowadays. In fact, I got one in my Burning Man toolbox, which sits over to the side here in the studio, that I paid nothing for years ago, and I was kind of like, maybe she can just use this. And it's a little bit nicer than the one she has, but she's really been enjoying shooting photos. And one of the cutest things happened a week or two ago that I'd completely forgotten until recently when she was using the camera again. And it's like proud dad moment. The messiness, the frustrations, the hello, are you deaf or are you just not listening to me type stuff. It all becomes worth it when you hear things like this. And she says, I want to do photography at concerts just like Daddy. And I went, oh my God, maybe I am doing something a little right. So I'm hoping that continues, and maybe she follows in footsteps and enjoys more and more photography. I don't know that if she's going to end up making a career out of it. I mean, I never did. It's a part-time career for me. It's just it has been ever since film school. But it's just nice to have that to have those moments with your kids, and that was a really big one for me. I could tell that she was proud to say, "Hey, my daddy gets to go hang out with these bands and shoot photos and everything else." Speaking of which, I'm really far behind on this. What happens when I pick up extra gigs? I've got a very long list of shows that still need to be edited, and I have a trip to Florida that's got to be edited. I've got we just went to an event the other night I got to edit, and the Sparks. Oh my God, it's out of hand. So it's just trying to keep up with all that. All right, we got the pool up. Like I said, I filled up the little pool, which is actually a tiny pool we got for the dog last year. He is not interested in water, so it's just been sitting there. But the kids wanted to put their feet in the pool, so I said, all right, here we go. And they're hanging out as I'm putting up the big pool. Thank God my wife is there. She's really good with following instructions. And I am an instructions guy. I'm not that like, oh, I'll figure it out. But sometimes it's just my brain hurts when I'm trying to do stuff, whereas my wife really enjoys putting together IKEA furniture and stuff like that, so she's very good at getting through the directions. So it's never easy, but we got there. Got the pool part way up. But the thing is, two things I will say. Got the pool part way up and went with a bigger pool this year. And in previous years, and my kid, I think we had the same pool for 2 years. She was able to step in herself like the second year. The year before, I just had to lift her up and put her in. You're sitting there with the kids. You pull them out when they're ready. This one, I could step into. I don't think anybody who's shorter than me, and keeping in mind I'm 6'3" and mostly legs, is going to be able to step into this pool. So I'm sitting there going, oh, shit. Well, now I got to buy one of those pool ladders to put in the damn pool, and that'll be that, but I'm going to have to sink more money into this pool stuff, which is fine. It's inexpensive. It's well worth the money for the kids to be able to cool off and have fun in the pool during the summer. But I do want to rant about one thing. These goddamn pool covers. So with our previous pool, I was like, this pool cover sucks. I think it's just because it's got the inflatable ring on the top and I can't put it on myself. And so I got a new pool cover because we got a bigger pool this year. And I'm thinking, all right, they must have made improvements by now. Like just something stretchy, just make it easy, just get this. Nope. Same kind of damn pool cover. I am walking around this 10-foot wide pool yesterday, not even full yet because I need to hook up. I didn't want to, the pump's not hooked up yet. So basically I got to where the level of the pump goes in. So it's the outtake and the intake, and I'm walking around this thing for like 15 minutes. And it's one of those things. You get one side and then the other side falls. You get that side and then this side falls. And I'm cursing the damn pool. I'm going, how do we live in a society nowadays where, we can video talk with somebody on the other side of the world, but it takes me 20 minutes to put a damn pool cover on? Still frustrated about it. Can you tell, Wall fans? This is almost like weekly rant status. But what I did do, and if you're having trouble with these, like one of these frame pools and putting the cover on, I grabbed some of the plastic gator clips that I have. So I'm pulling it, boom, Used 3 of those and finally got the damn thing on. I will say it's a little bit better than the freestanding, like, inflated top part of the pool as far as that goes. But still, pain in the ass. Can we just do better, pool makers? Come on. All right, I'm going to try to skim through a lot of this common sense stuff because I want to get a couple of recaps in there. We don't have a ton of entertainment news stuff anyway, so let's see how we're doing on time. We got some time left here. Probably going to go outside and deal with more of that pool stuff and then go enjoy a Father's Day observed dinner. That's what my wife and daughter woke me up this morning. Well, I mean, my daughter crawled into bed early this morning, and my wife wakes up and she goes, Happy Father's Day observed. And then my 6-year-old says, Happy Father's Day observed. It's like, all right, thanks. I'll take an extra day here. All right, some common sense. So I can't remember if we talked about this last baseball season, but for those of you not familiar or if I never talked about it, the Dodgers, the Los Angeles Dodgers, changed hot dog manufacturers. They had been Farmer John hot dogs for years. They had a contract with Farmer John. That contract expired, and I believe they I want to say it's like Cantella's or something is the new hot dog maker. Well, last season when they first made the change, I don't want to say every single one. Again, you hear the complaining more than the complimenting, so that's part of it here. But everybody's complaining about the Dodger dogs. No, they're not as good as the Farmer John Dodger dogs. Blah, 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 bah, blah. It's a whole controversy, and everybody's complaining. Sports radio's talking about hot dogs instead of actual sports events. They're just upset, and and I was like, okay. And I didn't go to a single Dodger game last year. I just didn't get around to it. And I always mean to every year, and then sometimes, we didn't get to an NBA game this year, meant to do that. So I hadn't had the new Dodger dog until recently. Well, last Thursday, I had the privilege, absolute privilege, and we'll have some photos from it going on social media, not only for my own personal stuff, but for the agency that I started working with about a month and change ago. I had the privilege of going there because my agency that I work with did a bunch of work for them. So it's the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation Gala, the Blue Diamond Gala. They do it every year, and we go, and it's funny because it's fancy, and it's L.A. fancy. So some people are wearing like jeans, but a lot of suits and funky stuff. And I picked up myself a nice blue suit. I said, hey, time to get a blue suit. I don't own one. It's going to be a Dodger blue suit. And then I'm wearing some funkier shoes, and everyone's having a blast. And it's funny because it's fancy bar, they had a bunch of fancy food sitting out, like braised short ribs and fancy chicken and salads and all this stuff. But then on each side of this giant tent, there's tables with, of course, Dodger dogs, because it's the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I had some of the fancy food, and I was like, you know what, they're there. I'm gonna have a Dodger dog, and everything's complimentary. So I went and got it, put some ketchup and mustard on there. Sorry to my Chicago peeps. My family from Chicago doesn't freak out so much about it, but I have friends from Chicago that are like, what are you putting ketchup on? I like ketchup and mustard on my hot dog, for God's sake. So I put ketchup and mustard. I walk it back to the table where I'm sitting with everyone that I work with at the agency. Opened it up, ate it, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine hot dog. And I asked a couple of other people I work with at the table, I'm like, was your hot dog? And they're like, yeah. I was like, why is everyone complaining last year? I don't know. So common sense says the damn thing tastes the same. I'm sorry. I get it. Something changed from when you were in childhood, but we need to calm it down. Hot dog was fine. And the trick is, and I think this is this way at a lot of baseball stadiums, is you go to the concession stand and they're like boiled hot dogs. But there's always a place at every baseball stadium I've been to, there's a place where you can get them grilled. And I wouldn't even have the grilled ones. These are just like the steamed boiled ones or whatever. And so grilled, it's probably even better. And that's usually what I used to do, is I'd go to the grilled one at Dodger Stadium and get a grilled hot dog. All right. We're talking, again, in common sense, we're talking sports stuff, but really none of it has to do with actual sports. It's more like hot dogs and stuff like that. And this one, Carson Wentz, the former quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders, amongst, I think he's played for a couple of other teams as well. Had some photos go viral recently. He was bear hunting in Alaska. Yes, bear hunting, and shot a very, very large bear, and posted the photo online. And rightfully, and some people, of course, that are into hunting and stuff, and oh, that's awesome. But then rightfully, people were like, yo, you just killed a defenseless creature. And if you're not familiar with bear hunting, this isn't guys with knives going into the wilderness and saying, oh, let's go bear. No, they're shooting them with a giant rifle from quite far away. He's posing with a giant gun there and everything. Now, as you know, if you've been a long-time listener, I have no problem with hunting. I have no problem with guns. You want a hunting rifle? Well, by all means, go hunt some ducks, hunt some deer, whatever it might be, as long as you're going to use it. If you're hunting deer, you better be eating some venison. You better be eating some duck. You better be eating some turkey. I don't think turkeys are that hard to hunt. I think you just kind of, nonetheless, I'm not a hunter myself, but I'm a meat eater. I get it. However, this is blatant trophy hunting. I've never understood the whole hunting bears thing, just so you can have a bearskin rug. Just get a fake bearskin rug if you want the look of it. There's nothing wrong with that. And we're talking about trophy hunting. And I don't, in my opinion, trophy hunting is never acceptable. We should move past that, and rightfully so. He was getting some flack from people who were like, dude. And I did see someone comment, like, beer meat is delicious. And it's like, you think he's eating the bear? Come on, man. He's just doing this for photo opportunity. Now he's going to have a bearskin rug in his house and everything else. It's just, come on. Stop with the bear hunting. Lance Armstrong. Yeah, that Lance Armstrong, former 7 or 8 time Tour de France winner. Former, because he had all those titles taken away. He's got a new show out. And he's hooking up, he's doing an interview thing with Caitlyn Jenner in Malibu. I saw that this was popping up all over the place over the past week or so, because he did a little trailer for it and everything else. And it's all about fairness in sports pertaining to transgender athletes. Yes, that Lance Armstrong is talking to that Caitlyn Jenner about fairness in sports and transgender rights. Talk about the blind leading the blind. And you know what? I'm not even going to sit here and try to get into this debate. I'm just going to say, when it comes to trans rights, we shouldn't be talking to Caitlyn Jenner. And when it comes to fairness in sports, we shouldn't talk to the dude that cheated for years upon years by using banned substances to gain clout and to win Tour de France's. That's just common sense. Armstrong has no room to talk fairness. Just none whatsoever. Give me a fucking break. Oh, and the NHL. They have, we have a lot of pride nights. We were talking about the Dodgers pride night recently, and a lot of sports have these pride nights, and especially baseball, because it's happening during Pride Month, which is June. But hockey has done it. Basketball's done it quite a bit, and especially when you consider the WNBA has a large LGBT component to it, I guess you could say, because I don't know that we've gotten into so much of the trans athletes when it comes to WNBA. Nonetheless, NHL has come out and said that they will no longer allow these specialty jerseys. Now, to be fair, in their defense, this was spawned from Pride Night jerseys because a lot of players said, well, we're not going to wear these jerseys and everything. And here's the other side of it, is they don't wear the jerseys for the games. They wear them for about 10, 15 minutes before the game in warm-ups, and then those jerseys get auctioned off and benefit charities. When they're Pride jerseys, they tend to benefit LGBTQ advocates and charities and stuff like that. Now, in NHL's defense, I will say, they have banned all specialty jerseys, because this is something I often bring up when people are like, well, just wear the regular jerseys, and they complain about the Pride jerseys or the Juneteenth jerseys. And it's like, okay, That, you know what? If you want to complain, that's fine. Complain about the military jerseys too, though, because if you don't want any kind of stuff going on with your jerseys, then you can't want that either. It's a double standard you have there. So in the NHL's defense, they have done this, but I will say they obviously caved to hateful people, and this is once again a smaller portion of fans of the NHL. However, they happen to be the loudest. So now we have lost all these cool jerseys that were being used in the NHL. Oh, the Blink-182 stepson. So I'm not even going to touch the whole submarine thing. I will give you my one thing on the submarine thing. I don't care how rich I am. I'm not spending $250,000 to basically ride in a coffin to the bottom of the ocean. It's never something I'm going to do. I'm not going to cheer the loss of life. However, I am going to say that if somebody has $250,000 to do something this dangerous and a rescue mission has to be put on by governments, Coast Guards, all this kind of stuff, there needs to be a fund put aside that pays for that so that the taxpayers are not paying for it. I will mention that. What I do want to talk about is the stepson that decided to go to Blink-182 concerts and literally tweeted at Blink-182 while his stepfather was lost at the bottom of the ocean, and now we know was actually passed away at the bottom of the ocean. And it obviously went viral. Like I said, he tweeted at Blink-182. But I do want to point out, for those of you that are not familiar, I'm not even going to talk about his name. You can look it up. The Blink-182 kid. He looks like a fucking moron. No, I mean, just I don't want to be offensive, but he just looks like he should be hated. And sure enough, if you do a little bit of digging, and I can 100% confirm this because there's some conjecture and everything else that he's a bit of a stalker and blah blah blah, and he likes to stalk like OnlyFans models and stuff. I have received confirmation directly from somebody I know. I'm not going to give her name, but she's also not kept it private. It came out publicly, but I don't want to invoke her name. But I can say, because it's someone I know personally, I trust enough that she would not be lying about these things, that literally had a problem with him stalking her, had to have the police involved, all kinds of other things. So as much as we need to make fun of him for going to a Blink-182 concert, let's also call him out for being a stalker and breaking the law. Speaking of breaking the law, breaking the law. Why am I blanking on what that song is? I don't know. I feel like I should know it. Probably own it. I own so much music that I forget what stuff is. Maybe I'm just remembering. I feel like Beavis and Butthead kind of did a thing there. Speaking of it, though, Proud Boys fighting Patriot Front. For those of you not familiar with the Patriot Front, they are basically another Proud Boys organization, and they recently, some videos came out of them fighting at some kind of protest. And the best thing is, they're fighting and yelling at each other, claiming each of the other one are actually federal agents in disguise as either Proud Boys or Patriot Front, and those accusations are being hurled across the lines there, and you gotta love to see it. they're just eating their own at this point. It's like, all right, I don't condone fighting, but by all means, boys, ding ding ding, let's go here. All right, Moms for Liberty. We've talked about them. They are not actually people for liberty. They are hateful women who run around under this moniker and protest basically equal rights for people. Well, they're in hot water yet again. In a newsletter from one of their chapters, they actually quoted Adolf Hitler. I want to unpack this for a sec, because I always say, how did this get past copywriters? Did nobody look at this? Blah, 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 blah. And here's the thing. Sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe they didn't realize. And you could say, well, maybe they used an Adolf Hitler quote, not realizing it was Adolf Hitler. No. If you look at the newsletter, it has the quote, and I can't even remember what the exact quote is. It is attributed to Adolf Hitler. There's literally no excuse here. We know that Moms for Liberty is clearly a racist, hateful group, and now we just have further confirmation of that. So make sure you have nothing to do with Moms for Liberty and call them out on their bullshit, like directly quoting Adolf Hitler in a newsletter and attributing the quote to Adolf Hitler. Good Lord. All right, one more thing in common sense we're going to get into, a little entertainment news. Probably going to go over by a few minutes today, but whatever, it is what it is. This one drives me nuts. And this is the country we live in. So there was a woman from Kentucky who was visiting Texas. She took an Uber, must have been from the airport or something, to wherever her destination was. Suddenly, she decided that she was being kidnapped by this Uber driver and being taken to Mexico. So instead of questioning or calling 911 or trying to get him to pull over, what did she do? She pulled out a gun and shot him in the head. If you haven't heard about this story, now you have. This is unfortunately what we deal with in this country. Everybody's so concerned about drag queens and LGBTQ rights and women's rights and everything else, and they turn a blind eye to when it comes to gun violence. This poor Uber driver lost his life because this woman saw a sign with a Spanish-sounding word on it, thinking she was being taken to Mexico. Utterly disgusting. And there's no excuse for things like this. We need change. These are the real villains. Not drag queens. Not people standing up for rights. Not minorities. For the love of God, not even people coming across the border that are murderers and rapists and everything else. No, this woman was a white woman from fucking Kentucky. She shot a man in the head without even thinking. Didn't even think about it. It's disgusting, Wall fans, and we need to continue to speak out against this. And I'm so sick of politicians and people of note passing the blame on other things when they blatantly just sit there and they take money from gun rights advocates like the NRA and make it okay for a woman to shoot a man in the head simply over some confusion. Let's do better. All right, let's talk some entertainment news. So I noticed recently that the new Flash movie, this is from DC, has been tanking, and I say that in finger quotes. Apparently, it's like the biggest drop off from opening weekend to second weekend of any DC movie or any superhero movie or something like that, or second most or whatever it is. Nonetheless, I saw some people asking why on the social platforms. And for those of you not familiar, the star of the movie, Ezra Miller, has been in constant legal trouble for harassing, for kidnapping, for violence, all kinds of things. And even knowing this, DC kept him in the movie and put a bunch of money behind the movie. And so I saw multiple people say, well, don't blame it on Ezra Miller. You cannot, what is the reason for this? But it cannot be Ezra Miller. And I'm sitting there reading this, and I'm literally in my head. Again, this is an example of one of those things where it can't be that. It can't be that. And I'm sitting there going, I literally will not watch the movie because Ezra Miller is in it. I might have watched it if not for this particular actor being in the movie. But that's what happens, is we just dismiss how people feel. It can't be that. And it's like, dude, that's why I'm not watching it. So maybe there's one or two other people that, like me, just don't want to go support a criminal who's being awarded tons of money to act in a movie. No, that's not how it works. All right, I had the privilege of, this past Friday, seeing an acoustic show with the uber-talented Jen Pop and also Jenny Cottrell, both of them playing acoustic, although Jenny played an electric guitar, but it was just each of them, and they had somebody else playing before them. Had the privilege of seeing it. If you have not seen Jen Pop or Jenny Cottrell do acoustic solo sets, I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. It was at Silver Lake Lounge, small place, very intimate, just people kind of hanging out. I saw so many dang friends there. It was funny. I walked in, and I went last minute. As a buddy of mine, Adam of the King Rock podcast, actually part of the King Rock podcast, actually hit me up, and he's like, "Are you going to Jen's acoustic thing tonight?" And I totally forgot about it, and I was literally in sweatpants. And it wasn't super late, but I was in sweatpants. I had just finished dinner with the wife and kid, and I went, "Oh God, I forgot that's tonight." And then I hit up, and huge shout out to Jamie Allright, because I hit him up. I was like, "Are you going?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm already here." Oh, I should have asked if you were going, because he lives right near me. And he's like, "Come on down, Uber down, I'll drive you home." So shout out to Jamie for driving me home, so I didn't actually have to drive down there. But it was so much fun, and I just had so many friends show up that I didn't even realize were going to be there. I walked in, I was like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." I felt a hand on my back, and there's like another friend of mine. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, all the friends are here." Just had a blast. And like I said, highly recommend seeing either of those ladies and their awesome acoustic sets they do. All right, one more thing, and then we're going to call it an episode. We are going to be a little bit over our hour time here. Quick recap of Punk Rock Bowling Day 3. This would be Sunday of Punk Rock Bowling. Second day of the big festival, third day of things happening when I was there. So definitely, they were all great days. But this one, as you will hear and might know already, had a special place in my heart. So we started the day not going to the pool party, but found myself over at the Golden Nugget, drinking at a little bar there, hanging out with some of the Bambinos, as well as Talina, lead singer of Bite Me Bambi. Ended up out by the pool hanging out with a bunch of friends. That's actually where I got to finally meet Amy Gaba in person. Talked to a couple of photographers, which gave me serious imposter syndrome because I'm just there like, you two are so much more talented than me, but thank you for talking to me like I'm on the same level as you. So I had a blast out there at the Golden Nugget. Made our way over to Nacho Daddy's, which apparently is a thing that you have to do in Vegas. I'd never done before. Fantastic food over there. Once we were done with Nacho Daddy's, we headed to the festival a little later in the day than we did the day before because we didn't need to see any of the early bands. And I will say the festival itself worked out more of the beer line problems as well as the card problems as well as the water problems. You could see that they learned from the first day mistakes and were able to make them better when it came to the second day of the main festival. Got to see some great bands. Hepcat played that day. Fishbone played that day. A whole bunch of other bands, particularly The Damned, absolutely killed it. I always forget how much I enjoy The Damned until I see them live, and me and my group of friends that were running around together at the festival. The group grows but had kind of a core group of 4 people, and then people be hanging out. They'd go off do something else. Anyway, we're all just vibing like in the back, and I'm just like bobbing along to The Damned. And then, of course, the headliner for that night was Rancid, which is one of my absolute favorite bands, top 3 band for me. So I was very excited. Rancid starts up. It actually opened with a song off their newest album, and then they go into their typical festival set, which is so stereotypical, but I'm a sucker for Rancid, so it's fine. And about 5 or 6 songs in, suddenly I hear Lars is telling dad jokes on the stage, and I'm going, what are we doing here? Okay, I guess we're telling dad jokes, and it was kind of funny. I'm like, oh, just some banter in between. And then they start doing some like acoustic stuff and still talking. You could see like Tim and Lars are kind of looking down at security in front of the stage. And after a few minutes of this like banter and stuff, they go, okay, we're going to leave stage for 15 minutes. The barrier is down and security needs to fix it. So we're going to leave the stage for everyone's safety. And for those of you not familiar, the barrier is what separates the crowd from the stage. And this was a higher stage, so it was a little less dangerous, but you also have the photo pit in between, and photographers were probably getting overrun. I'm toward the back. I couldn't even see the barrier down. So I turned to my group of friends, and 3 out of the group, we were all going to see the Barstool Preachers Club show. And for anyone that's ever been to not even just a show or a concert, any kind of event, they say, okay, we're taking a 15-minute, unless it's like an intermission, which, at a play or something, then yes. But if they say, we're going to take 15 minutes to fix this, it's not 15 minutes. So we all look at each other and we're like, it's going to be at least a half an hour. Like, we know this. It's going to be at least a half an hour. I love Rancid, but I haven't seen Barstool Preachers in person since 2019. We got to get over there. So I ended up leaving a Rancid set, and they killed it. I saw some video, talked to some people, but sure enough, it was about 40-plus minutes until they got the barrier back up. So we did make the right decision to leave, and especially with it being the Barstool Preachers Club show. Hadn't seen the boys since 2019 in person. And this was definitely one of the highlights of my weekend. I will say, and I'm going to give you too much detail on this one. I show up, and we're walking up to the front of the club show, and I look, and there's Rev from the Drowns. And I'm going, oh, my God, Rev. And I run up, and he's like, Sean, and we embrace and huge hug and stuff. And as I let go, I turn, and I hear this, what the fuck? You're going to, and I can't do a good English accent. What the fuck, Sean? You're going to hug Rev and just ignore me. And I turn, and it's fucking TJ. And so we had a giant love fest there. It was one of the best things. He's one of the best human beings. All of the boys in the Barstool Preachers are the best human beings on the face of the earth. So it was great to see him. Head inside, run into Bungle. Same thing. We shot a little video for the great Paul Smith because we have a little ongoing joke with Paul of Zombie Teeth. And then, of course, seeing all of the rest of the boys. Except Gibbs was not there. They had to fill in for Gibbs because Gibbs just had a baby. But Carl, Wibbs, and everybody else that was there running around got pictures with the entire band. And in fact, all of the Drowns ended up being there. So we hung out with them for a little while. And the Barstool Preachers, the only complaint I had was that it was too short of a set because it was a club show. So, but The cool thing was, even though it was a short set, all the boys hung out. And in fact, Alex was like, he was working behind the merch, and so I'm over there hanging out with him for a bunch of it because I picked up their newest hoodie. And Wibbs was definitely having a good time. To be fair, he's got a young kid at home. This is probably his first time, being able to let loose a bit. It's in Vegas. And we basically closed the place down, and we started to leave, and we kind of started saying our goodbyes, and then a couple of us were like, well, let's just go outside and hang out, and we'll hang out with them for loadout. So we ended up hanging out with the boys even more for loadout. Literally had Bungle honking the horn to get him in the tour van because he's trying to go. I went and sat on Bungle's lap honking the horn to try to get him in the tour van, and we literally saw them all the way off back. They were staying in Prim, I think, or elsewhere, but they had literally to leave the next day to go back to the UK. One of the absolute highlights of my punk rock bowling experience. I'm obviously a little biased because I love those boys so much. We run their fan group, and they're one of my absolute favorite bands out playing right now. Unfortunately, they will be back in the fall. But that was definitely the marathon day. I found myself sitting in the lobby of the Downtown Grand at 4 a.m., eating a cheesesteak sandwich and french fries. And not like on the ground but we were like they only were doing food to go at this particular restaurant at Downtown Grand, but they had like a lounging area in the lobby near the casino part of it. And so instead of sitting in a chair, there was one of those like shorter coffee table types, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit on the ground and set my food here. And I'm just unbelievably tired, but having a grand old time because I don't see 4 a.m. a lot. That's not something I see a lot at my age. It's just not. But that was Punk Rock Bowling Day 3 with so many highlights, but especially the Barstool Preachers Club show. Love those boys. Love them. And they will be back in the fall if you're here in the U.S. And if you're in the UK, or no, where are they? They're doing Europe, right? I mean, I think they were. Yeah, I got to double check. I keep up with it, but I'm like, you're not in the U.S. What do I care where you're playing right now unless you're in my country and I can go see you. All right. So like I said, Punk Rock Bowling Day 3. All right. I am exhausted. That's going to do it. I got to go enjoy the rest of my Father's Day observed, even though Father's Day was a week ago. Maybe go celebrate the Sparks winning today. Throw on my Sparks hat that I picked up at the game last week. Before we go, don't forget to follow us on all the social platforms. Facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall is our official Facebook page. Our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/GoTellItToTheWall or at GoTellItToTheWall. Make sure you subscribe and check out all our great videos on there. Of course, my own personal Instagram account at SoCalSean, SoCalSean at SoCalSean. And make sure you bookmark SeanO'RourkeLive.com for links to all those things, as well as exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, as well as links to support us financially. If you want to do it through Patreon, you can see it right there on the homepage of SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Or if you want to pick up some Common Sense merch, there is a tab right at the top that says merch, and will take you to our merch website. All right, we should be back next week, same wall time, same wall place. I will confirm with everybody. That'll be our first episode of July. Oh, man, it's July already, and this is our last episode of June. So make sure you're following the Facebook page to get updates there. And until then, this has been episode 109 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And until next time, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you're going, especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.